Barbara Davis and her team.
Barbara, you know where you're going.
Hey, Jenny, when we're done, we'll get a composite picture of all of them informally. Like,
Some of them left.
they haven't left, have they?
Yeah. Corey's heard
Yeah,
left.
the
but
principals at
Photoshop
least
them
will
in.
not leave.
Well, let me explain this slide. Every year, RMS adopts a theme, and this year it's rolling out the red carpet for RMS students. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Monica Davis, and I'm the principal at Rolla Middle School. And these lovely ladies are the assistants at RMS, Sherry Norman, Stephanie Grisham, and so they'll be speaking a little bit later. As you can tell, the theme was the placemat. Something that we developed and we want to go ahead and highlight is that we want to keep everything kind of uniformed, and we've adopted this a little bit. The whole district basically went to these formats, and we're going to be highlighting a little bit more into these as we go along with our presentation and the slides. One of my biggest goals personally and at RMS is parent and community involvement. We are so proud of what we do at RMS that we love to have people from the community come in, but we also send a lot of the kids out to different things that we do in the community. And as you can tell, we have a lot of organizations that we are really involved with or we sponsor. And just so you guys know, the SWAG team, or the Students Willing and Giving, are really, really wanting to push the polar bear plunge this year. And I do not like cold weather, period. And I've judged it, I've been there, I've supported, but if we can get 100 plungers, I have stated that I will go ahead and I will get into that cold, frigid water. So, if you are interested in plunging, please contact one of our SWAG team members and I can get you that information. Our Parent Advisory Committee is extremely important. We do the parent surveys as well in the spring. We're doing one actually in the fall. And we compile that information and use our Parent Advisory Committee to kind of formulate how we're going to do our school improvement plan. But this year we decided that we're going to also use our Parent Advisory Committee to kind of help us transition, because we're going to become a 4 through 6 building instead of a 5-7. And it's really important to hear the needs and wants from parents and the community on what they expect that school to look like, whether it's going to be considered an upper elementary or maybe a middle school, you know, just keeping it a middle school, because we need to find out what their expectations are. So we're going to really use those people.
Hi, my name is Julie Murray, and I'm a volunteer at Rollo Middle School. I help in the library. There are several advantages to being in the library. All middle school students come to the library to check out and return books. So instead of just seeing my daughter's 5th grade class or my son's 7th grade class, I get to see all of the students. I also get to see all of the books. I love books. And my kids just love the suggestions that I give them after volunteering all day, or not. What I like most about volunteering in the library is when students come in after they've met their AR goal. They're so proud of themselves, and they should be. Their teachers set goals for each individual student based on their reading ability. The library has bulletin boards for students to post their names. Reaching their goal also earns them a movie ticket for the quarterly movie. This quarter, the movie is Spiderwick. In closing, let me suggest that if you have time to give, check into volunteering at Arella Public School.
I always think, you know, here's the highly qualified staff. Of course, every district is going to say that they have highly qualified staff. But I got to say, RMS has the best middle school teachers in the state of Missouri, in my opinion. They go way beyond the call of duty. Any middle school teacher really does have to. That's one of those transitional years. But we really do. I'm proud, and I wish every one of you can come in and see some of our classes. They are amazing. Right now, we're really concentrating on the new teacher evaluation model, along with the student growth measures, kind of learning a little bit more about that as we go along. They're very innovative, but one thing that I've noticed about the teachers there is that they're very interested in learning what we can do to encourage students to learn a little bit more, a little bit differently. We do a lot of in-district stuff, but we do a lot of technology training, and Mrs. Grisham is going to hit a little bit more on that area.
I'm Lori Ann Chance, and I teach 6th grade at the Rolla Middle School. And since the district has started the full implementation of the new evaluation systems, it has made me a stronger educator. I find myself, when making my lesson plans, in the back of my mind, I have those growth goals constantly on my mind. For example, I'm always thinking about reaching the students and using different ways I can teach them, or different ways to instruct them. I'm also thinking constantly, are my students engaged? And on my mind is the classroom environment. So when I'm making lessons or planning a lesson, I have those 3 growth goals constantly on my mind.
Hello to all of my Rolla administrators and board members. I wanted to talk to you about why I love Rolla Public Schools so much. I wanted to first talk about what makes us so great is the culture. The culture is dictated by many things, and number one, which is how professional and friendly the staff is. Ever since I've been here, coming here in July, meeting with my co-teacher and any administrators, I've just encountered the utmost professionalism and just some of the friendliest people that were willing to help me at any turn. You know, something else that I truly appreciate is the trust that you guys show in all of your employees. You know that they're going to get the job done. You know, something else that we've talked about is that you guys have training for everything. You know, I love my administrators here at Rolla Middle School. They have not paid me to say that. By the way, you guys still owe me $40. But anyways, they are wonderful. I truly love Monica and Sherry and Stephanie. I think that they all 3 have a very positive attitude, and it's shown throughout the school. And everything that the teachers do, they lead us, and they show us how to behave, and that's what I love as well. And so thank you again for letting me work here, and it's always a great day to be a Bulldog. Thank you.
All right, so there's a highlight of a couple of our teachers talking about things that they've been working on. Leading into part of that with their instruction is obviously the resources that they have readily available for them to use within their classrooms. And so teachers at Rolla Middle School use our technology facilitators, Christopher and Jeannie, quite frequently. Like many have already said, they go to training, and so when they get back to their classroom, they really want to make sure that they can apply that within their classroom. And so I know as a former classroom teacher that it's always nice to have those extra hands to help out when you do something the first time, and so they're a great support for our staff. We also do the fast forward at the middle school, so I think all 3 elementaries have said that, so we use that as a tier 2 intervention with our positive behavior supports for our students that are having trouble. 14 of our students right now are using that, and so it's a very small group that are getting service with that. District-wide, our big push is obviously technology, and so with our instructional resources, that's been focused in years past, how to get those resources in those classrooms, and so we're still wanting to expand the devices that we have with laptops and also iPads, but we do have a couple classrooms who are piloting the Chromebooks this year, and those teachers are very excited to be able to work with those. Not only is it cost effective for us, cheaper than laptops and such, but it's very easy to kind of get logged in and obviously access their drive that they're using within Google Classroom, and so that's kind of also being piloted in a couple classrooms with the Google Classroom of different ways to be able to push things out and discuss and have everything readily available for those students. So here's a couple videos attesting on Google Classroom.
Hi, I'm Ms. Rapp, and I teach reading and English at Rowell Middle School. And I've been using technology since I've been here since 2012. I've been on iTeach for 2 years now. I use laptops in the classroom as well as iPads. And just this year I've started with Google Classroom, and I very much like it. I'm able to push out documents so much easier than paper and have students just edit the paper and turn it right in. For example, we used an essay, and for the first time I had 7th graders use MLA format because it was easy for them to fill in the template. Other projects we use on the iPads, it's so easy for them to submit it through Google Classroom, and also the discussion board on Google Classroom. For example, we watched a video, and while they were watching they could type and they could see each other's discussion boards. So it's very easy for kids to collaborate digitally and submit easily.
The project we did on one of the short stories in our textbook, we used Google Docs and we wrote a little play, and it was easier to do it with my partner because I could see what changes she made and we could like communicate better. Google Classroom is easier to use because, well, we can communicate better and it's easier to turn it in. You don't always have to upload. When editing the essay, we had a sidebar where we could comment on things and we could highlight it and then write what could be better. And it really helped me because my essay was a lot better after.
Hi, my name is Zach, and I'm in Miss Shelton's class in the 5th grade.
Hi, my name is Alyssa, and I'm in Mrs. Shelton's 5th grade homeroom class.
In science class, we do science experiments in the lab, and then we come back and type it up on Google Docs, and then we turn it in. For our personal narrative, we wrote it down in a composition book, and then we typed it up on the computer, and then Ms. Shelton had this magical way of editing it. And then we turned it in through Classroom.
In science class, we did a brochure about the 3 states of matter. We had to make 2 slides. The first one stating what we were writing about, and then the second one stating 3 facts about solids, liquids, and gases. In science and math class, we do ed puzzles, which are videos like Kid President, and we have to watch them, and then we are prompted to take a test afterwards.
I like using Google Classroom because it's just a lot easier to log in than other websites, and it's just, there's a lot more things you can do because you can do Google Docs and Google Slides.
I like Google Classroom because it's easier than working on paper because you don't have to worry about messing up your spelling, and it's a lot easier to turn it into your teacher than like using a piece of paper.
Okay, so moving on to the 4th category within our CSIPs. Data is prevalent through the middle school, so we use data, multiple avenues through data, not only Study Island, teachers use formative assessments within their classroom. Obviously we use MAP every year to assess what our MAP indices are and how that we compare with the state and such, to target what we need to improve. So where are our weaknesses and where can we improve, not only for kids that may be really low, but for our high kids too. So for how do we improve all students, because we know that we can always do a better job. So a lot of that comes from student engagement. So tying back to kind of the teacher evaluation, we have a portion there that we're focusing on with that student engagement. So when we go into classrooms, I'm looking for, are all these kids working? And it's wonderful to see, when there's technology, almost always those kids are spot on. But it doesn't always have to have technology. Our teachers can use different resources and strategies to capture those kids and make sure that they are engaged and actively learning in their class.
In addition to student performance academically, we look at the whole learner. And so to that end, we are also expanding our small guidance groups. And the umbrella of that encompasses divorce groups, grief groups for students that have lost a parent. It also encompasses social groups and friendship groups as well for students that are having difficulties with their peers. Also, an initiative that went forward as a teacher-led initiative this year due to the gap for those students that were receiving Title I intervention as a resource. Mr. Hounsom wanted me to make sure everyone knew that wasn't because of district level funding cuts. That was a federal level cut there. But they came up with, we call it Bridging the Gap, and it's a support and a resource for those students that might have otherwise received that intervention or remediation, and also as a SAT target to where possibly that could go on to be a SPED referral. So it's also putting them on the radar for that intervention as well. As a culmination to community involvement, highly qualified teachers, instructional resources, we also take part in our building with Project Lead the Way. And that was a collaboration with Missouri S&T. Last year we were one of 3 schools that piloted that program. That's in science, again, addressing science and technology. The teacher in our building that led that is Jessica Zink, and you'll see a clip with her. We just recently got word that she was awarded the Launch Teacher of the Year award, so we'll be recognizing her with that. So she's going to tell you a little bit about that initiative as well.
Hi, I'm Jessica Zink. I am Rolla 5th grade, the Launch Lead Teacher for Project Lead the Way. With me today, I have Miss Kira Crisco. She is a former student of mine. She's now in 6th grade. Last year, she was part of the 5th grade pilot group in my classroom. And we're going to talk a little bit about how awesome Project Lead the Way is and how fortunate we are to have this program being implemented into the RMS curriculum.
My favorite project would probably be like the Rube Goldberg thing, where you had like the iPad and you built like your own little Rube Gold machine kind of thing, and you had to have these simple machines in it.
Did you like that versus drawing it on paper?
Yeah.
What did you?
Because it was a lot easier to see it and have it because the ball would drop and then it would go through all your simple machines and stuff, and it was a lot easier to see it move and stuff.
And then with Project Lead the Way, students, they're getting to utilize science, technology, engineering, and math on an everyday basis.
They would give us a bin of tools that we had to use that were tissues and cups and different kind of things, and we had to build our weather machine kind of thing, and we tested them out.
And that they were able to, some of them actually worked. We actually set them up and they were able to use the engineering design process and the problem solvers to solve and build. This year, 5th grade science teachers, we are now qualified to teach the Project Lead the Way curriculum. We have our supplies, our VEX kits that have came in, and they are going to help us with the simple machines and the force and motion units that we're going to teach. In the spring, we will then, students will be challenged. Sorry, Kira, she's 6th grade. She will not be able to do this year, but our 5th graders are going to have a robotics and automation unit that we will have in the spring that they actually get to create and build a live robot, which is very exciting. And I know 5th grade, we are just ecstatic to be able to use this curriculum and implement it to our students.
She wanted to go back to 5th grade, I think.
It's down on all the good stuff there. In the governance piece of our placemat, one of our goals as administrators
was to improve communication, and that was communication with staff, communication with students, communication with parents. We are participating in professional development as administrators to help us with technology, and to that end, we're getting a little bit outside, well, Monica and I's comfort zone. Stephanie's pretty tech savvy, but with Google Documents, a lot of our things, we're switching over and transitioning to that, and it really is more expedient as far as pushing out documents to staff and collecting data and information from them. Our SAT team, I know we revised that whole process of intervention and cataloging the intervention strategies and referral process for our students. We are also being trained more in depth with our teacher evaluation model. We're going through some professional development that helps us to be more of a resource for our teachers and to provide positive feedback and meaningful feedback to our teachers. One of the things we do as administrators that's really near and dear to our hearts, though, of course, it has to do with the kids. And we've spoken a little bit earlier about check-in, check-out as an intervention strategy. And we are all mentors, all the three of us, 2 students in our building. And it gives the kids a little bit of accountability. We kind of play the parent role to some degree for those kids. And I'm not going to lie, we bribe them. We want them to be successful as far as getting their work finished. We want them to be successful with their behaviors and their academics. And so we've got a little clip of someone who's participated in that, and then we're going to show you a little bit of data to show you how successful that program has been.
Check-in and check-out is good, it helps, and it keeps people motivated for what they do. Usually after we packed our bags, she'd come, or someone would come, knock on our door, and ask whoever to come out, like me. She has a little paper and stuff that if you do a good job all week, you get prizes like I got an MP3 player, a couple mechanical pencils, and a digital camera. My favorite part was probably when I got the prizes, when I got the grades.
Being honest.
Had to think about that.
Help me with my grades, because when you know what you're going to get and you want to get that so you do good.
And part of that process is at the end of the day, check in with us at the beginning of the day. We kind of set the tone. You know, do you have everything you need? Is your work completed at the end of the day? Is everything in your backpack you need to take home? Do you need to go to after school tutoring? Maybe at the beginning of the day, before school tutoring. I don't want you to think we're just giving cameras and MP3 players away. It's a cumulative prize. They can, every day they earn $1. If everything is good, everything checks out, if they can earn extra. I know if they've taken an AR test that day and passed, and those dollars accumulate, and then they're able to purchase those prizes with their resources, I guess you'd say. So you can see here the positive outcome of that. It goes to their academic performance, their behavioral performance, and also their attendance. Everything is on the upside on that. And so we just want to continue to expand and refine that program.
And I've got to add a little bit onto that before we get to the questions. I've been at the middle school for 7 years now, and we've implemented the checkbook program, not just the check-in, check-out, but that's where they actually have to carry the checkbooks, and we meet with them and we give them their tokens and their prize, and they really have to balance that. So there are a lot of components to it. But what I really, really enjoy about it is that we're looking at kids with not just behavioral problems or grades or any of those kind of aspects, but we're looking at the whole student. And it's an opportunity for educators to get to know kids on a one-on-one basis. So not only really is this engaging the students, this is making us know exactly how blessed we are to have the job that we have, because we make a difference, and you can tell by the statistics that we have made a difference with this. We will continue to increase the kids that we have, the amount of kids that we have in this program, but we also want to make sure that we use and idolize everybody in the district and everybody in our school, including custodians or secretaries or anyone that student has built that connection with. It's extremely important that they feel important. And we do that with most kids, if not all kids, but those kids that are at risk. So at this time, if there are any questions.
Did my heart good to hear a kid say,
I had to open up a composition book and write in it with pencils.
I agree. I'm a little bit like that with the ebooks and the Kindles.
Yeah.
I still like to have that book in my hand.
Well, something not as much a question as a comment, and I've heard it throughout many of your presentations, as much focus as we have to have on our lower achieving students. You've always got that fear of, but what about the rest? And I appreciate that you're all looking at, well, we got to keep that balance.
Right.
And we can't neglect one subgroup at the expense of another subgroup. And I got to think that's an awful difficult balance, so we appreciate what you all do.
Good stuff.
The
Good
boy
stuff.
said he didn't have to worry about his spelling. What did he do? Does it correct the spelling?
Oh,
Automatic spell
the
check?
presentation that President was a little girl, she said that
Okay, she said.
basically what it is you know, you guys all have used computers, and they kind of highlight when they need to be, I think that's what they meant, is that it highlights it and then they have to go back and recorrect it. But they don't have to sit there and open up a dictionary anymore, so, I still do.
I right-click and open up the electronic dictionary, yeah. Yep.
Thoughts, I asked, I think, Matt, this earlier about transition and communication from this level to folks. What's your thoughts about that?
We just actually met with our parent advisory committee, and that has not only parents, but we have teachers in there as well. One of the questions that the parents asked were, can we start some of this transition earlier than what we have expected? For instance, we really need to get a playground for the middle school for 4th and 5th and 6th grade. That is something we could actually start working on now. I am going to be getting with the parent advisory committee about coming up with plans on what that will look like, because we still service the upper elementary kind of kids, but we also have that in-between kind of 6th grade, junior high kid. So we need to figure out, and truthfully, I'd like to visit other schools to see what they do.
Thanks.
We wanted to give credit to Christopher.
Oh,
He did.
Christopher is our technology ninja, is what he has been labeled, so thank you. He did piece all these videos.
It's been mentioned in every presentation, hasn't it?
He's all that.
I think when you're doing something you like, you can do a pretty good job at it.
He does a great job.
It proves it's a good investment in
That's
having
right.
support.
Yeah, we try to keep him happy.
Now we need to get